Welcome to the Wodesman podcast, catching up with all things bushcraft, wild camping and the great outdoors.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Wodesman podcast. I'm your host, Liam Lynch, or Primal Nomad, and I do apologise for the delay in getting an episode out. I know it's the beginning of the year and the last kind of few days of the month, but this episode is actually taken from last year when I went down to see a good friend, Matt from Grove Game Larder. He's down in the south of England and he does a fantastic job managing deer, and if you want to see an episode of actually our camp and bushcraft kind of hunt that we had, you can see that on my channel Primal Nomad. But this episode is all about his introduction to hunting, my look on it, kind of how it's different to the USA, and just a general chat about field sports over here in the UK. And I really hope you guys enjoy it. We do have a tradition here on the Wodesman podcast as well called Busholutions, and considering it is the first month of the year, albeit a little bit late, I wanted to share with you my Busholution, which is to get the podcast out much more. I haven't actually managed to catch up with Tom back on Bushcraft for a little while, so hopefully we manage to get a little podcast out, but in the interim, there is a few episodes going to follow on from this that I did film last year. The next one will be where I'm down with Thornwood Forge and Josh from Feared Woods, a knife maker, and that's followed on shortly after this trip with Matt from Grove Game. So I do hope you guys enjoy it, and as always, if you guys have any Busholutions, which are New Year's resolutions for the outdoor space or for bushcraft or for camping or anything that you want to learn, get your hands stuck into, or just develop skills further, just please do share them down in the comments or on Spotify or through emails or messages on Instagram, and we'll make sure to put an episode together with your listener Busholutions. And yeah, just it would be fantastic to get you guys involved. The community space is where it's all at, so hopefully we can build that here with the Wodesman podcast as I continue to push it this year with regular uploads for you guys. So look, if you can do me a favor, share this podcast around. Of course, it's a video podcast now, so I hope you enjoy watching, or if you're listening, I hope you enjoy listening. But please do go check out Matt from Grove Game, and I hope you enjoy this podcast, and I will see you very soon for a more frequent upload for the Wodesman podcast. Until then, guys, you stay safe, and I'll see you soon. So hey guys, Liam here from the Wodesman podcast, and I'm joined with Matt Roberts from Grove Game, and Matt is a very good friend who helped me out in a very sticky situation. So basically, the first time we ever met was on Facebook, vicariously kind of through the comment section. I'd put out a shout out, hadn't I, to say, was there anyone who could help me out with a buck in the fur for a festival I was running down in Somerset. Now, Matt, you came to my rescue with a lovely yearling roebuck, and God, that must have been, what, 3 years ago now?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, a long time ago actually, and since then this is the first time we've actually managed to catch up in person, and we have had a fantastic weekend camping, doing some bushcraft, field sports, bit of deer stalking. It's been honestly really amazing, so thank you so much for your hospitality as well.
My pleasure.
So Matt, for my audience, what is it you get up to? So you are in deer management. I know that's a very wide subject, but specifically, where do you land in that region?
Yeah, so I manage the, I guess, deer populations on several estates around here, as well as for the National Trust. I'm the sort of deer manager for the area.
Brilliant.
And as part of that, I also do a lot of venison supply and wild boar and general game as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of my management activity is kind of to maintain populations in line with the landowners want, depending on what they want from the land, whether they want trophy species or they want manageable volumes or numbers, or they just want them sort of nothing. If they've got like a Christmas tree plantation, for example, they're not going to want a small population of roe in there. They're going to want none.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
That kind of gig really. And yeah, taking the carcasses, processing them, supplying them to a lot of high-end restaurants in the areas and on the website and all that sort of things.
Because you've got a full larder set up, and I've been very lucky to have some of your burgers, sausages, cuts of meat this weekend, and I have to say, and I'm not just saying it because you're here, they were absolutely fantastic and really delicious, which burgers and sausages can be a really hard thing to pull off with venison. So you've obviously got a very good culinary aspect to you, and you obviously know your cuts very, very well. When I saw you breaking down that muntjac haunch yesterday, your skill with the knife just for removing the bone and then separating them into the 3 integral kind of the primals, I guess you could say. It was fantastic to watch. So it's great to know that you're supplying local areas and restaurants with a good quality meat, and that must give you some big reward as well. You know,
it's hugely rewarding, to I think take something from field to table is really satisfying from both like a primal way and also just like the fact that you've got these skills that not a lot of people have really.
Definitely.
And it's I've always been into cooking and taking something which you can basically just find out there wild, and you can literally make the decision to take it out and process however you want, and just not be scared to try new things. It's great. That's
what's always drawn me to it, and I think even as a young person, it was that very primitive, like you said, kind of draw to. Not that it's a free resource, but it's that once you can make a decision that can then provide for you, your family. It's incredible quality. It hasn't known anything other than the wild kind of aspect. And also the reward in terms of all of the effort that you've put in towards getting that hunt has always been something that's drawn me. And was that something that you would say as a young person you were drawn into the craft? Is that where it started for you? Was it that primal kind of draw to go out and kind of explore and say, like every kid wants to go around and fire a catapult or, try the hands at snaring rabbits. At least when I was a kid, that's what I was really into as well.
100% no, exactly. I mean, my dad was into shooting, and he got me, sort of took me along from a young age, pheasant shooting, where I hung up around with him for a little bit, but mostly went and hung around the beaters.
Nice.
And got to know the sort of how the dyed-in-the-wool country folk do things, really, as opposed
learning
to
the ropes
properly from the ground up, really, which is really nice.
Well, I guess on a lot of beats you get you're hearing other conversations going on, you're getting little bits of advice. Saying, don't go through there for this reason, or you're learning all these little things from seasoned people.
Some of the things are amazing. So if you're going through the beating line and you think you're there to drive pheasants through, but it would also construct these sort of rabbit traps, like stop-end rabbit traps, where it's like a triangle of logs with an entry on one side and a stop at the other.
Yeah.
And the rabbits sort of bolt in there, and what you do is they're always the entry point was always pointing away from the beaters. So you basically walk past them, stick your hand up there, and just pull rabbits out, and they just neck them. And let's have them on their belts to be walking through there with rabbits and stuff. It was incredible. It was great fun.
Yeah, so very much like a kind of fish trap, but just for a mammal.
Yeah, and you pull 3 or 4 out there sometimes,
amazing.
And it'd be that's like the highlight of the day.
Yeah, brilliant.
Or occasionally one of the terriers would have a roe deer down by the throat, and you'd have to go and put that in the game card as well. And then the guns would be like, "What the hell's that doing in there?" Just like bloody border terriers on it again, I'm afraid. So
it's just the way it goes sometimes, isn't it? But I guess as a kind of introduction to the outdoor world, you couldn't have had a better start, really.
You couldn't have known. My main sort of catalyst for getting into it was a half mile down the road. The gamekeeper, he had a son the same age as me.
Nice.
A guy called Peter, and we used to hang around all the time.
Brilliant.
And I used to basically just spend all the time around there, either in the rearing season helping debeak pheasants or maintain pens, which again has got quite a bit of, I guess, bushcraft skill.
Absolutely.
In terms of finding lengths of poles and tensioning wire and getting the angles right and everything.
100%.
Putting like the one-way switches in for them just so the birds can get in. But then we used to go like pigeon shooting. His dad used to set us up in a field.
Perfect.
With a couple of boxes of cartridges and some decoys, and then leave us to it when we were like 13.
That is the dream, isn't it, of every young lad?
Which is great. And rabbiting as well with ferrets. He used to have ferrets, and I later got ferrets myself. He teaches us how to make nets, like hemp nets, with our like measuring board and our rings and our things, and we make these purse nets, make like dozens and dozens of them, and then we go and have these little knocker boxes, so you put the collars on the ferrets and then go and catch rabbits.
Fantastic.
Those rabbits we then grade, skin, take them to butchers and get like a quid each for them.
Brilliant.
I don't think the price of rabbits has moved in 30 years since I've been doing it. It's still getting a quid each for them.
I can imagine it still is.
Yeah.
Good pocket money for
13, 14,
100%.
absolutely amazing,
Yeah.
And that sort of sparked it off, really.
Yeah, and I can imagine, like you said there, you were already, before bushcraft would have ever been kind of categorised on a wider scale as bushcraft, and how things have kind of got niched off now in this modern world. It was just a kind of a way of life of doing things, even down to, like you said, making the purse nets. That in itself is a very, very fantastic bushcraft skill that a lot of people spend a lot of time learning. So to have been kind of just doing that naturally as a young kid, and it almost becomes second nature at that point. And it's like riding a bike. And I remember any of the skills that I learned as a young adult, or as a young child even, always the easiest to recall, and always the most, that nostalgia brings a warmth with it as well.
100%.
So, and I think it's important to pass those skills down.
Yeah, and you sort of, in terms of making nets, it's like what sort of grade, what ply hemp you're looking at, which is easiest, what sort of nice lay to it, what stuff picks all the brambles and bloody leaves and all that side of things up with it, which one's not slip and all that side of things.
I like that.
But with snares, like making tealers, making like your pegs out of ash, like splitting them down, getting more nice and even, all like nice 7-inch pegs, like sharpening the tips,
brilliant,
boring a hole in it.
I love it.
And then it's just brilliant. So you've got some kit which is pretty much from the woods, and it's
absolutely.
It doesn't need to cost anything really.
And it wouldn't be hard to replicate some of the wires with natural fibers with enough kind of know-how as well. So then you can transfer those skills, like you said, even further down that route. Let's say if you're in a survival situation, so even then you're learning things that most people in the bushcraft world would then have to go and specifically learn about snare making, which is why the field sports has always attracted me. And for me, it was very much harder to get into because my local area is although it's surrounded by farms, there's a lot of permissions, a lot of syndicates, groups. They've already got people managing, or simply you can't just get access there. But I did have the access to a wild public wood, massive, 400 or 500 acres. So I did have that kind of opportunity of a trial and fire by going up and having a little campfire, burning myself, and seeing muntjac and seeing squirrels, although I wasn't able to hunt them. I have to say, like, the rabbit hunting came a bit later in my kind of early teenage years, maybe like 11, 12. So it's always fascinating with me how people like yourself have an intrinsic knowledge of the outdoor world and animals especially, but just take it for granted. So for example, you would be very much more in tune with the woodland than your average everyday bushcrafter who might just come from a city background, for example, even though the bushcrafter might have some other more fine-tuned knowledges. And there's this fantastic crossover and opportunity for people to share. And this is why our relationships get off really well, because over this weekend you've shared some new insights to field sports and to stalking and to even down to the grallicking. And I hope I've been able to do the same just in terms of camping and injecting a little bit more of bushcraft kind of aspect into what you'd already been doing, but making some tasks a little bit simpler.
Yeah, well, I think we all learn from each other, don't we? We've all got a way we can do something, and then you'll see someone do something slightly differently, and then you refine your technique to use a bit of their technique, and before you know it, it's you've got an improved one, which is a hybrid between the two. So it's constant. And you say about going in and sort of around the woods and things, it's just when you're hunting something, it's that sort of that field craft and knowing the animal, and if you do it enough, then you'll start to learn how they react to certain things, and that gives you some form of intuition about how to read a situation.
Yes, of course.
And then if you can read the situation or read the area, the situation that you're in, you can then sort of plan ahead to how am I going to. So there's a deer over there; it's 150 meters away. I need to get through 50 meters of really crunchy twigs.
Yeah, of course.
How the hell am I going to do that? Is it heading in a certain direction? Is it quite happy? Is it couched there? How alert is it?
Yeah.
And then you can plan your thing from there, really.
Yeah, and even down to how the wind's playing in the woodland.
100%, yeah.
And knowing that how the animal is going to respond to that, and at what time of the year it is, how an animal is going to respond to that. Because there's, again, and it goes back to what I was trying to highlight, is that there's, through deer management and I guess field sports in general, which some people might paint it in this very negative circle, but it's not just stalking deer, it's not just going out picking up making sure you got the right caliber even, or making sure you got a gun and night vision and going out, and that's not even touching the surface of it. It's about understanding how an animal behaves, again, at different types of the year, how they behave in different habitats. For example, when you're stalking in an area like this in woodland, it becomes a totally different story when you're stalking in an open field. Or even, when you change quarry within the same species, so you Sika deer, red deer, fallow, roe, muntjac, Chinese water deer, for example. There's so many different variables. And for me, muntjac stalking, which was my kind of introduction, there's a lot of quick opportunistic, because they're like,
they don't stop really. They're
up, down, move, and like if you take your eyes off it for a few seconds,
it's 30 meters that way,
it's gone already. So whereas, for example, fallows are a very different kind of animal, and even behaves in the woods totally different. So would you say that took a long time for you to pick that up, or was it very intuitive because you had that background in kind of field sports?
I think there's some things which are constant with deer stalking, and that's sort of the wind is the biggest enemy for you, really. They're not so bothered about the line of sight side of things. If they feel that they are in a safe position there, and they think they're in control of watching you, then they're generally a bit more relaxed. If they're heavily pressured, then they're going to see you and they're gone. But if you play it the right way, then you can generally get away with it. But wind is a major issue. Noise, again, not so much of a problem. If you've got the wind in your face, you can have obviously the noise is going away from them. But I think the biggest issue is wind, and that's for all species of deer. Obviously, there's the muntjac, roe deer, and to a certain extent the Chinese. They're not generally herd species, so if you're stalking into an individual, you may well fairly assume there's a couple around as well which could do things. But if you're going into a fallow, a Sika, or a red, you can pretty much guarantee there's going to be more pairs of eyes on you than you have seen, which is why thermal is so good for literally spotting everything which is in the immediate vicinity for that. But if you're trying to pick an animal out of a herd of fallow, and there's a particular individual you want, it's not just, you've got to think about your bullet path as well, because whilst it might be going in a straight line towards the deer, it can hit a bit of bone, and it's not like a linear pass through. It could come out at an angle, so you want to make sure that there's nothing behind that's going to get injured, especially the fact with the calibers that we're using as well. Some of these can go 3 or 4 kilometers, so you got to make sure you've got a nice rising bank of soft ground behind you, because you don't want to go and take someone out on a road or a house or a footpath or anything. There's a lot to take into account when you're doing it. It's not just a case of rolling up on something and shooting the person you see at all.
And that's even where it becomes, for a lot of our listeners in America, that's where it becomes a totally different story to even shooting over here than it does in the States. And even again, if you were shooting up in Scotland, it might be a totally different story to shooting down here, because over here, again, like we said earlier, you're never too far away from, generally speaking, a town, a city, a village, a footpath. It's quite, England's been, it's got some history to it, hasn't it? So there's always a footpath somewhere that you don't expect it to be. And that's something that also must bring its own kind of battles, whether that's coming across wild campers like myself, or whether it's, having to constantly keep that in mind. And I was going to say, has thermals, because you mentioned on that, has that really helped change the dynamic for you as a deer manager? I know a lot of people kind of see it as, they're cheating, or, you're not still using the skill. But for example, when we stalked yesterday, there was no thermal use. It was more of a saw the deer, opportunistic, very much so. And it can change at any point, can't it?
No, exactly. I know there's the traditionalists which don't use thermal at all, and I totally get that. But they will be recreational stalkers.
Yes.
I wouldn't call myself. I wouldn't call myself commercial, but I'm here to do a job, and if I don't do it, then someone else is going to do it. So, and as well, I think it's a far more efficient use of time. Time is our biggest issue on all of these things, especially when you've got another job as well.
And commercially, time is money.
So you've got time is money, but there's also the efficiency side of things. I think thermal is fantastic, both from a security and safety point of view, for seeing people which aren't really where they should be. But but then you need that safety side of things as well, because I'd rather I knew you were there than
100%.
I smelt you there like
Yeah.
3 weeks later
Yeah,
or something, if you know what I mean. So there's that side of things where but with the deer side as well, is you have a far better idea of what is around you. So you can far better plan your cull. There might be a more appropriate animal that you might be stalking into a perfectly healthy animal to shoot that, and then through the use of thermal, you see one which is couched up with a busted leg because it's like caught itself in a fence or something. So you can then switch your attention to that. So it's got far more pros than cons.
Yeah.
And I get it. Every now and again, I leave the thermal behind if I'm going out for a recreational stalk.
Yeah, definitely.
Like this morning when I got up earlier, literally went around, left the thermal behind, and just had a wander.
Brilliant.
If I see something, I see something. If I don't, I don't. But there's no pressure to get anything.
Yeah, I love that.
But if you do need to make a difference, only there a certain amount of time. Yeah. Then if the text there, use it.
Yeah, so that's some really good points about thermal, because like you said, it allows you to survey the animals, survey the surroundings for health and safety kind of point of view. And I don't see, I don't personally see it as cheating. I've even, in fact, got myself a little thermal monocle, which I find really, really handy. And it's, again, just allowing you to see a different aspect of the woodland. And that's something that I always find fascinating with, the different sides of hunting. Obviously, we've got the very traditional kind of way of hunting and stalking over here in England, steeped in a lot of history and a lot of method and reason behind why we do certain things. Whereas over in America, again, for a lot of our American listeners, you tend to see bigger, vaster spaces, bigger quarry, predators, and also a different mindset and, outlook on hunting. Totally. It's much more widely accepted. More people are into it. They have swathes of public land to go out and do it, which means there are more people able to get into the field sports. And would you say that's probably why they've got a bit of a different, would you say it's the size of the area, or would you say there's anything from your point of view perspective that kind of sways Americans into a bit more of a into the way that they do hunt compared to over here in the UK? Because obviously, like I said, over here in the UK, we tend to bring everything to a larder as soon as we can. Although we can do field grallochs like we did yesterday, even then we'd still prefer that to go to a larder straight away. Whereas in America, they're quite happy packing it out, doing fresh cuts, leaving it out overnight, or washing it in a river, for example. So yeah, it'd just be interesting to know your opinion on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of my venison goes into the restaurant trade, so I'm governed by pretty stringent requirements on it. So the idea, I think generally the best practice rules in the UK are anything which is, the idea is to get the internal carcass temperature down to below 7 degrees or below as soon as possible after sort of shooting it. And as you mentioned, in the UK, we're quite lucky with lots of road networks. There's we're not in the middle of the boondocks, basically. I mean, okay, if you're up in Scotland or somewhere on the moors, then you might have an issue, but it's still not a million miles away. Whereas in America, they've got the luxury of these massive, great prairies.
Yeah, they might
and all
be
the other
2-day hike out. Or
exactly, which just sounds amazing. But but they won't be that meat won't be going into a commercial environment. So so I think from our side of things, we do things slightly differently. So the idea is we gralloch the beast immediately or very shortly after it's been shot. We have to do a carcass inspection to look at all the different lymph nodes and other indicators like the tongue, the close of the hooves, the spleen, other sorts of indicators around the lungs. So we need to look at full carcass inspection. Then we need to tag it so that we know that it's eligible to go into the food chain. And I think in the UK, or for anywhere, you've got to have a plan for that carcass. Yeah, there's no point going out there and shooting one and thinking, great, I've got one. What the hell am I going to do now? Yeah. And not having a facility, so having nowhere to store it. Yeah. Because, I mean, the flies get in everywhere, and you can very soon see a decent bit of venison go.
I came across that when I harvested a fallow and I took it back, and then I, butchered it up on my worktop, and I was like, I've got to go and buy another freezer now because half of this is going to fill that one. Yeah. So I ended up with another freezer, but. That wasn't too bad. But you can imagine when you're out in the wild and in the sticks, and suddenly you've got something like that on your hand. It becomes
it's a logistical issue, especially the size of it as well. So shooting a big animal is great, but you've got to move it. Yeah, and there's challenges on just moving animals, even with the the road there, there's rocks and stuff all over the place. It's quite uneven uneven underfoot. If you twist your ankle or go down and bust your kneecap, then you've got a whole new set of problems for you to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not just a case of the fieldcraft to get in to shoot the animal, it's the fieldcraft and bushcraft to get yourself out of it. Yeah. Especially if you're in steep areas, you might have to like rig up pulley systems or things like that. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who does a lot of shooting in Lynmouth, around Exmoor, and you're literally trying to drag like red deer up hills which are like this, and like tie them off on things, just pull it up another couple of feet, just go up, tie it off again. And I've seen him after weekends doing that, and he's a broken man.
I can imagine.
Completely broken.
Imagine.
So
and it's funny you touched on something there, which was that in America a lot of people as well are going out for themselves to fill their own larder or to fill their own freezers. They're not doing it as a commercial. They're not allowed, in fact, to sell wild meats over in America, and that was a law decided upon so that people can exploit the wild meats in America, which I think is actually a fantastic method. It works for them, and I think over here, would you say it's very much that we've got history of people kind of saying, would you say the reason less people do field sports is due to a lack of access, or because they like to put that off, the gruesome kind of bit of it off to one person and say, well, he can manage the shooting and the gutting and all that kind of smelly job, and I'll just have the meat? Would you say like England's got more of a history of that? Because I do notice that people over here are a little bit more squeamish towards with things like that, and I wonder if it's just because there's always been a history of the butcher and the hunter who's gone out and done it, and you find that in tribes there'll be a certain group of men who go out and do them things. It's not all the men would always even do it.
I think hunting generally, I think more people would probably do it if it didn't have such a bad image. I think the press, the media have done they've really done a number on it, because they've turned hunting in general into a blood sport and a class war issue. And I think that it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, it might be quite difficult to sometimes get that introduction into the sort of scene, because people they're so apprehensive about being had up as a bad guy or anything like that. There's, as soon as you gain that trust, just through enthusiasm or just being a nice, genuine person who's genuinely interested, you'll find it's a really welcoming community. But I think if it wasn't for that, I think the health benefits that are being pressed of venison, like the high, the great protein, nice and lean, it's wild, there's no chemicals to it, or
no antibiotics.
Exactly. I think it's that the health points of it have done more for it than the actual the sporting element of it, because there is a sporting element to it, but there's also there's a byproduct which is fantastic quality meat. But I think the UK people have become more used to being consumers of it as opposed to
100%
predators and going out and doing it, because it's just such a stigma attached to it, which I think is really, really unfair.
And I think it's, you touched on it there, often it's, where you're going to do these things are owned by the landed gentry. They're land rich, maybe, or asset rich,
cash poor,
but cash poor, so a lot of their estate is their livelihood. And they want to protect that, make sure they haven't got someone exploiting the deer. Plus anyone we haven't got a firearm culture in the UK massively since obviously Dunblane. That kind of was the kind of last little bastion that kind of tipped it over the edge of not being normal to have a gun in a household. And obviously we've had a few horrific incidents since then. But would you say that's a big contributing factor to it as well, that Americans and other cultures, not just Americans, cultures around the world who have access to firearms have a greater respect inherently from them, because you do find that over here a lot of people are quite terrified of firearms, and they don't see them as the tool that they are, whereas to you or myself, we just see that as as a tool, respected massively, but we know its place and we know its use, whereas a lot of people get off-put by that. Would you say that could also contribute to people coming into the craft?
I think so. I mean, I think our regular police here don't have firearms, tasers and stuff. I know we do have armed police, but over in other countries, America especially, everyone's got one on the hip. So they I think it's a lot more generally accepted. I think it's just a bit I mean, it's a hard question to answer really, because it's, do you want everyone running around with guns and stuff? No, not really. You've got to have a good reason to have one.
Yeah.
And I think we have a very good firearms attitude in this country generally. I think most people who get them, it's a privilege, not a right. Okay, that's one of the main things. So because it's a privilege, you need to be a good member of society.
And do you think that's a privilege because, again, it's like the land side of it? Because obviously if there was much more land and public swathes of land, maybe it would be a bit more lenient.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's we're quite, well, we're a small island relatively. We're quite, population density is quite high. Yeah, there's only a certain amount of land which has got these things, but the population density is high, but so the deer population density is high as well. Over in America and other countries, the density is far lower, so you've got a lot more space to do this sort of stuff in. So.
Yeah, and would you say that you even notice on some years that you have to adjust the way you manage deer populations due to droughts or hard winters, and obviously that might also be a contributing factor to why it's harder to get permissions or join syndicates, or for new people stalking to maybe get out there, because not only is it that it's not that people don't want to introduce young blood to the sport, it's maybe that actually there isn't as many opportunities around in the UK. Would you say it's the deer population, would you say it's booming now, or would you say that there's still room for new deer managers, or is the kind of way that it has been running in the last few years, you still find it you kind of stretched thin at some point?
There's definitely room for people on it. You'll find that people have some individuals have lots of access to ground with high densities of deer numbers on them, and yet they do not have the facilities to shoot at the amount they need to appropriately manage that. So you'll have people managing an area of ground, and they will not do production in the same way that I would. So I would go and process 400 or 500 deer a year.
Yes, yeah.
You'll have others which might go and shoot 2 or 3 a year, but that bit of ground that they shoot on, they need to be shooting 50 or 100.
Yeah,
and you'll have lots of different places like that, but that bit of ground that person has is their pride and joy. Can't take that away from the tool. That's their pride and joy. But
sometimes it's like it gets locked, like an opportunity gets locked behind someone's and
that's it's just a fact of life, really.
Yeah, it is the way it is.
Whether there's room for that to change, I don't know, because there's a hell of a lot of trust associated with letting someone go on your land with firearms, and the process for getting them is stringent. The education is very, very good. But at the end of the day, it's someone owns that land. It's not public. There's no public land around here that there is in sort of New Zealand and America, where you can literally go and crack on.
No.
It is what it is. You've got to have land and permission, and you've got a bullet that could go 4 kilometers and still kill someone.
And almost to me, as I didn't start on the field sports journey. I kind of wedged myself in, because I found myself having to kind of really forcibly kind of enter it, because it's not that it's not unwelcoming, and it's, like you said, very much so a thing of trust and passion. But I think it's almost like you've got to kind of want to do it for the right reasons, I think. Because for me personally, I've always wanted to use every bit of an animal when I go out, and that's something out of a respect to the animal myself, a personal thing. And also just not wanting to waste, an interest in how to use the materials as well, how to process the animal, how to use the hide, which we've collaborated on some hides in the past, some beautiful fallow hides that you've provided. And for me, it's always been a case of, I don't think I could do a deer management job, although if I knew it was going to butcher and getting used, but then even all of the hides, I'd be like, and I'd have to use them all. So it'd be really hard for me personally to be a deer manager. And I expressed that to you even the other day when there was a fox and an opportunity to take fox. And I said, actually, when I've got some livestock of my own, that's when I'll take my first fox. And that's just a personal preference kind of thing, which you respected. I just do it out of respect for the animal myself, but I don't think you don't respect the animal because of that. And I think that's what I was trying to get across is Do you think there's this kind of weird dichotomy with people like associating you with being like just a Bambi murderer?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean,
where it's just completely not in reality. And you know more about deer than probably 99% of those people who might ever say that to you.
oh yeah, and but that's just education and versus ignorance, really. That's all it comes down to. The same people who would accuse me of being a Bambi murderer would quite happily go and have some miscellaneous meat off from a supermarket shelf.
Yeah.
So it's water for ducks back, that side of things. I know I'm morally and ethically on the right side of things, so I don't really care. It's just it does sadden me that people like that can influence and have an impact on the sort of things that I do, though.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people. Social media is, unfortunately, it's as bad as it is good on these sorts of things. It does give these muppets a platform to go and create problems. So yeah, that's a sad fact of life, really. It won't stop me doing what I'm doing.
No,
it's just when they make enough noise that the government starts to change things.
This is
which is a problem. Yeah.
And would you find it like quite frustrating when people just assume that they might tie all field sports together? So pheasant shooting or fox hunting gets lumbered with deer stalking, and would you say to anyone joining or trying to get into any kind of words of motivation for people who might be battling with like, oh, I'm going to be labelled as a foodie coming into the deer sports, or like if I call up Matt and go and do a deer hunt and put a picture up, everyone's going to think I'm nuts or whatever.
No,
to anyone new coming to the scene, because I know as a young person that always kind of worried me a little bit. Not worried me, but it was always, oh, what's the backlash of this going to be like? And there shouldn't be any backlash, because it's a very normal thing. Like you say, most people will go and eat a bit of random meat out of a restaurant or pick it up off a shelf in a packet.
No, I think all field sports kind of got to stick together, really. I mean, everyone has got each different one, whether it be bloody pheasant shooting or grouse shooting or deer management or rat shooting. I think whilst each one may have a headline picture, behind it there's so many genuine people which have just got the genuine countryside at heart, and they toil over it. A lot of land is managed to its best possible way for the benefit of all sorts of other animals, raptors, voles, bloody insects, everything.
Absolutely.
Because of that discipline. So I couldn't come here and say pheasant shooting's bad, because some places do 500 bird days. Okay, it's a lot, and you can kind of see, but then there's a lot of money going into the area for that. Those estates are managed very, very well. They've probably got better biodiversity in some areas, maybe not necessarily where the pheasants are, because I know they don't just eat the feed, they eat loads of other stuff as well. But then the whole rest of the area does better for that as well. So I think there's a lot of give and take, push and shove, and I think it's I think you should be proud of it. If you do something, then you should be proud of it. I'm sure you can justify it to yourself. Not that you should need to justify it to other people, but
no, of course.
Don't be put off by. Don't let someone else who put you off because of their ignorance.
Yeah.
So I'd say, so if it feels right for you, then
that's a good answer. I like that. Yeah. So because it's there's a lot of people who I know would love to get into deer stalking, or just not even, I think sometimes, and this is going out to some other people in your echelon of work, or in your field of work. Sometimes people just want to go out to experience it. They might not be interested in becoming a deer manager. Like for me, like I'm not interested in running a deer management estate, but I still wanted to learn the DSC one because I wanted to make sure that when I was out, I was able to pick up on different signs. I was able to understand how the animal was behaving at different times of the year, how diseases impacted them, how our modern grain farming has even impacted their behaviors or feeding patterns, for example. And that was just something that was kind of important to me, but it's always hard to kind of get across to maybe people in the shooting craft that people might just want to go out and just experience shooting an animal. It's just harvesting.
Yeah,
it's a very primitive thing to me. I think
improving their education. I mean, that one experience.
Getting like that now.
They might like venison, and they might think, well, how much of this how much of a part of my diet do I want this to be? And they might want to see the whole journey. They might want to see the whole journey, and then that could completely change their outlook on it. They could become the venison's biggest fan because they know how it gets field to table. That's really important to them. And same way, I totally agree. I think going out and learning for yourself how things happen. Well, you can't take the internet's word for anything.
No.
You've got to find some things out for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. You might go out and think, oh God, that's not for me at all, but bloody hell, it tastes good, so I'm going to keep eating it. But but then going out there and seeing something might make you appreciate it even more.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, just for example, yesterday, just to give you guys a brief kind of explanation of what we've been up to this weekend, I came down to see Matt to do a weekend stalk, spend some time in the woods doing some bushcraft, and really encompassing basically what we've just been speaking about as well. Just enjoying not having a separate divide, which is something that I've always wanted to trying to break that boundary between like field sports and bushcraft. Like to me, they're very much just the same thing. And I'd love to see more outfits like yourself doing what you're doing, like bringing people into woodland environments. So the opportunity to do like showcasing a suspended gralloch out in the woods, but also just breaking that boundary between shooting and bushcraft. I think in other parts of the world they're very much just an asset of each other. They go hand in hand, and for people like you yourself they are, but I think for many people they're still very separate. And that's what my videos and these podcasts aim to do, is just to really show the harmony between them both. And for example, yesterday we had a fantastic woodland stalk, didn't we? Do you want to give a little bit of an explanation about the kind of general lay of the land we're in and how it went down? Because a beautiful roebuck.
Yeah, well, we're in some mixed mature woodland here in Somerset, and it's the roe rut at the moment. So, well, it's actually just the start of the roe rut. So we ideally want a nice bit of humidity, and you'll get the roe running around all sorts of times of day. We went out first thing yesterday morning, and it had a bit of a breeze, didn't it, on the air? So it wasn't. It was so it cooled things off a little bit. First place we went to, nothing was coming to the call. Second place we went to, we were just in the absolutely brilliant spot, this lovely wheat field. I know there's lots of bucks there. We were just about to get set up, and then we hear this chainsaw kicking, literally 50 metres away. Where the bloody hell's that come from? And the farmer had turned up with his combine. He was basically whipping limbs off a tree, which decided to lean over. So we're like,
sycamore.
God. He was pulling limbs like this off his sycamore.
Yeah.
And so like, well, that wrote that off. So we came here and we just sort of made camp, had a nice little bit of lunch, and then we went for a potter, didn't we? And I think we had a little just walked a couple hundred metres literally from camp, and we spotted this roebuck that was pursuing a doe, and he was getting himself all flustered and emotional, and like doing some scraping and running around. And we got gun up on the sticks, and Liam got himself set, waited for the deer to turn broadside, and bang, straight down. It was a lovely mature buck. He's what called going back, so he's past his sort of prime age, so he's already been passing his he's rutted several times before, so his genes are out there, they're all good. He's a nice buck. He's got big coronets, so he's a nice mature buck. He's only got 4 points, so he's gone back on his back tines, and he was just a lovely animal. So it's a great shot.
Beautiful symmetry.
Yeah, really nice symmetry. Lots of purling, which you found on your hands when you're dragging it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely.
Purlings like the little sharp bumps which go all the way up the antlers. They can really, and in fact, good forestry point. The purling deer, they shed their antlers each year, and then they regrow them, and they regrow them in like a sleeve of velvet.
Yes.
And the reason why they are despised by foresters and places like this, which are trying to encourage natural regen to grow up through, is at the end of say April, May, the deer's hormones will change, and the blood supply to that velvet will cut off, and it'll become very itchy. And the deer, they rub that velvet off on whippy sticks, and so like a nice new sapling would be perfect for it. And in the act of rubbing that velvet off, the purling strips all the bark off the trees and it either deforms or kills it.
Yes.
So that's why we are targeting the roebucks in here. And he's obviously been ruining trees for a few years.
Oh yeah, I
so
with that purling, and it was just a fantastic specimen. And like you said, despite it only being, not miles away from camp,
no,
it was actually the most fantastic experience, because we'd spent some time putting up the hammocks, trying out different setups, getting everything ready for the evening, and we just decided the time was right. You'd gotten all your gear, we'd taken a little walk down, and I'd noticed that you'd spotted something after a short while out on the trail, and we'd kind of been spotting, kind of glassing out over the area, and I noticed that you were fixed on something, and I at this point was stood kind of behind you, line of sight, kind of just to keep a smaller silhouette, and I kind of peeked around you and glassed, and as soon as I lifted my glass, locked with that buck. And I have to say, it's one of those moments where, some people might say, well, that's just not realistic, but that literally is how it happened. But like you said, we've been out to 2 different locations before, and it had been unsuccessful. We'd seen other wildlife, and that's just literally how it can go sometimes. You can, there's a good saying, it's why we call it hunting and not killing.
100%.
You're not guaranteeing anything when you're out, and that could have been a doe there.
Yeah.
It could have been a much younger buck. There could have been literally nothing. It could have been a badger. Anything could have been making a noise or a rustle over there. And I think that's one of the beauties of it. You're dictating what you're doing, as in we're out on the task, we're going hunting. But we're not just here to hunt, we're here to bushcraft as well. So it wouldn't have mattered if we hadn't have got something.
No.
And again, you're still having a lovely walk.
But I think that's where bushcraft and fieldcraft meets as well, especially with the bushcraft and the hunting side, because at the heart of both of those is food.
Yes.
And
yes.
we hear the bushcraft element has made a really nice camp, comfortable camp. It's made a fire from like a flint and steel napping, and we've got a really nice fire going there. The hunting side has got the animal, and then we cook it up. So I think the food is the central part. That's one of the main points, because you can't cook it without the bushcraft. You can't hunt it without the fieldcraft.
Yeah.
And then together they are. Yeah, that's what made it together. So
there's a real nice unity there, even down to how like the gralloch yesterday out in the woods. It's a very much, a lot of people would might just think we'll dress it on the floor. I know a lot, again, over in the States, they do a lot of floor dressing because it's
because that weighs 300 kilos.
Yeah, it's massive. They've just got absolutely no choice.
Yeah.
What I love about it is having the skills and the ability to be able to say, well, if there was 8 or 9 of us there yesterday, we could have cut off like the rear end off of that deer, transported the other half back to the larder, and actually said, well, we'll process down that bottom whole half, and you've got a whole meal there, probably for a few days. You've got bones for stocks, you've got bones for tools, you've got sinews, you've got fibres, you've got leather, and also you've helped manage the roe in an estate that's benefiting the estate. If you're coming out with a guide like yourself, it's contributing towards your job, your career, helping you again manage your species but also while you're passing down skills to someone else. So there's like all these little different avenues of where there's just from one task. It's helping out so many different people. Which I think is fantastic. And plus the meat is then going to however many local people. I think that's fantastic.
No, it is. It's a very rewarding way of doing things, especially when going out with someone like yourself who is so sort of cool with it and so, I guess, curious and interested and just enjoys all the side of things as well, because I really, really enjoy it, and when I see someone else that really enjoys it, it makes it even more rewarding, really. So yes, it's great.
And I can say the exact same for you. It's evident that you have a real passion for what you do, and honestly, guys, I do implore you to go out and check out Matt's work at Grove Game. He's got a fantastic larder down here in the south of England, where you provide meat to the south of England. You could ship it anywhere in the UK, I'd imagine, can't you? Don't let me speak on your behalf.
No, I can. Okay.
Brilliant. So please do tell people where to find you, because it's been a really, really good conversation. I'd love to get you back on the podcast, have a bit more of a less all-rounder kind of chat and focus on a few little things about maybe specific species, whereas today has just kind of been an introduction to who you are, how you view field sports in the UK, and that kind of connection with bushcraft. And I've really enjoyed chatting to you about it.
No, thanks so much.
Sorry if there's been any loaded questions.
No.
Difficult ones.
No, it's all good. So it's I'm the Grove Game Larder on Instagram, and my website's grovegame.co.uk. So I do sort of mail order venison, wild boar, rabbits, pigeons, all that sort of stuff. So if you'd like, I was going to say, it would have been really cool to do like one of those big pot roast shoulders of venison in like a cauldron or something. Because I remember Ray Mears did, like, do you call it jambalaya or something like that?
Yeah, we'll have to try it next time. We'll get the Dutch oven over.
So
definitely.
Bottle of wine, roast shoulder with the bone in, and then just like cook over a pot, and hell yeah, that's what that's what I do basically. So I've really enjoyed doing this. It's been great. I was just saying earlier, I slept in the hammock last night. Forgot my bloody sleeping bag.
I couldn't believe it when you said that. Yeah.
On the call.
I was like, oh no! I was like scrambling, looking for anything to give you.
I still had a good night's sleep, and I feel so chilled out now. It's brilliant. Which isn't always the case, because during the season I've got to think 2 weeks ahead for like the culling time, the hanging time, the butchery time, the delivery time. So when you got like when the weather is inclement, or as it can often be over here, or the deer just don't want to play ball, it can be a bit stressful.
And you've got a full-time job.
And I've got a full-time job, so let's not forget that.
Yeah, which is crazy. But no, it's honestly been just fantastic getting to know you a little bit more. I know we've been back and forwards on messages and sending each other pictures, and you've been sending me deer hides to tan up, and so we've had a really good growing relationship. But honestly, thank you so much for everything you've done this weekend. It's really looked after me. And just a quick question, this is for anyone listening and for myself as well. Do you go out with clients you guide as well?
I do guided stalks. Yeah, I mean it's I don't do loads of it.
Of course.
Just through sort of timing and logistics and stuff. But I do guided stalks. I probably wouldn't do overnight ones like this that often, because obviously you're super special.
But logistically it's very hard, and I have to say a massive thank you for sorting this out.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So there's lots of as we were saying earlier, there's lots of trust involved in going to sort of landowners. They don't sort of, obviously this is a crop at the end of the day. They're having fire and when it's been,
there's a whole insurance liability
in the box around here is a bit of a big ask. So we can't be doing this all the time. But in terms of guided stalks or even simulator stalks, if you don't feel comfortable actually pulling the trigger on something yourself and get some targets up, you still go through, do the same fieldcraft and sort of shooting, target practice, and all that sort of stuff really.
Brilliant. Well, honestly, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully one day through my work and your work and everyone else's work in the field sports industry, we can see it move into a direction where more people feel comfortable getting involved, and also landowners feel a bit more comfortable getting people involved as well. Not that they're not, but you know what I'm saying. Hopefully we can see that the continual growth of this, because I think it's something really important, and hopefully my content, the stuff that you do on Instagram, the meat that you're putting out there is all just a little bit of the puzzle that's getting people more aware of what's actually out there, because I think it's one of the most underrated, valuable resources that we've got. I mean, just even quickly, the rabbit we had last night.
Oh, how good. Yeah, that was great, wasn't it?
It's so good. Would you call it a little pan fry?
Yeah, it was weird. We popped out the back of mine. They just cut a harvester strip around the to test the humidity in the wheat, and they left it for the day. So we popped out just as it got dark, with the 2-2, and there's this little pan fry rabbit which we shot and we brought back, and we what did we just put in one of those little what are those pots called?
The zebra billy can, the smaller section, so the insert.
Yeah, the lid. So we just lined that with some tin foil, put the rabbit in it with some scallion, or scallion, spring onions, some salt, some pepper, some sliced cheese, so some olive oil and like a little drop of water, then put the lid on top, and it created like a nice little, not like a pressure cooker, but that sort of nice little enclosed pot.
Yeah, just a tiny little bit of steam.
Yeah, and then we just chucked it on top of the
the fire anchor.
The fire anchor, yeah.
A fantastic bit of kit again.
Bubbled away there for 40 minutes or so, and it was just like, oh my god, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was the best
fell
route.
off the bone. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Honestly, it was like, and that again just reminds you of how good wild game is. So yeah, hopefully we can see more people get involved. And if you do want to get involved and you're down this kind of neck of the woods or ever passing through, drop Matt a message and see, maybe you'll be able to sort something out, go out and do a little guided stalk if it fits in with his schedule. But if not, even if you just want to test or taste venison, definitely give some an order. Honestly, the sausages were fantastic, and all of it's been fantastic. So yeah, just give it a little check out.
Thanks very much.
No worries. Until next time, guys, I will see you soon, probably when I'm down at Thornwood Forge and with Feared Woods. So it'll be another little collaborative episode with myself. Tom's busy with the puppy back at his neck of the woods, so he couldn't join. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this one. It's given you a little bit of an insight into what goes on from a deer manager's point of view, how that kind of relates to bushcraft, and a few little tips if you are thinking about coming out and getting into it, what to expect. So honestly, Matt, again, thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.